Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to KP. Annalise here. So Ava was actually leading me to share. I believe this is going to be I want to say maybe part 5 or 6, maybe 7 of the Happy Birthday Snow White. Now, of course, test the spirit by the spirit to see if the word is for you, what parts are for you, and if it's a right now word or a shelf word. Abba will let you know. So just bring it back to him and he will let you know. With that being said, we were talking about with the Happy Birthday Snow White, we've been talking about Snow White, but also we have been kind of sprinkling in there the Cinderella when we've been talking about that there. And we've also been talking about Cinderella and Snow White with parent wounds. So if you feel led to go ahead and watch that, go ahead and watch that. But Abba was leading me to share because I was watching this one. It was called something slippers, but it was like a Cinderella telling a Cinderella story. And if you see Cinderella, you know all the different ways Cinderella is told. Just like there's so many different versions and ways that Snow White is told. But this one happened to be particularly pertaining to the slippers, um, her glass slippers, her shoes. In the movie, they were actually these backless heels that had a thick heel. I want to say they were about 2.5, 3 inches. They were backless, but they were closed toed, but they were sparkly. They were so sparkly. They were diamonds all over them. They were so sparkly. It was just like wow. And I love the way that everything sparkled in the movie, even though this was a little bit of a twist to it. Um, Now, you can see in the movie that she actually, of course, it went the same way. Hey, she was, with her father. Her mother died. Then the father remarried. And after the father remarried, soon after the father died. So then she's left with these people, and they're in the house that she grew up in, the house that her father paid for and owned and whatnot. And so, um, you have, of course, the stepmother taking care of her daughters and making sure they get everything top tier, whatnot. But then of course she looks at Cinderella like, okay, ew, um go down here, and basically sends her to like the kitchen quarters that is pretty large, but it's still the space of like where she's to cook and she's to clean, and then there's like a bed in a corner for her to sleep. So she basically puts her down there. Um now um once she um, does that, there is the part where she's basically, before she did that, actually, thank you, Holy Spirit, she was going to go upstairs to her room. And she was like, the stepmother was like, well, where are you going? And Cinderella was like, I'm going to my room. And the girl was like, what room? Or the stepmother, she was like, what room? All these rooms in here are mine. Parent wounds, you already know. Parent wounds, you already know. But and just to clarify, it's that space of like the entitlement and the pride that basically states, I pay for it, and because I pay for it, it's mine. And because it's mine, you have to do what I say, how I say it, when I say it. And that's, thank you. Let me not get ahead of myself. Thank you, Holy Spirit. So, with that being said, they take her to the cellar. So now she's in this dusty cellar, which um you see in the movie that the fairy godmother, like, she keeps popping up. Like, this is one where it's just twisted a little bit, where the fairy godmother is actually kind of like helping her out in the way that she's doing stuff, kind of like, thank you, Holy Spirit, he's bringing to my remembrance Maleficent. I love Maleficent, oh my goodness. um and I especially love like her story. um I especially like love the villains that they look like villains, but they're not necessarily villains. They were just really hurt, and they were hurt really badly. And it's just that space of them reacting to that, um, opposed to them, letting it go, because that cut was really deep. Um, but Maleficent, I love. And then you got the new Maleficent, or Sleeping Beauty. You got the new Sleeping Beauty as Maleficent, where you have Angelina Jolie playing Maleficent. And so um, in the movie, when the fairies take the baby girl to hide her, Maleficent knows where they are the whole time. And in this movie, opposed to the Sleeping Beauty movie where they kind of just knew what they were doing, or they were using magic to kind of help them, in this one they were kind of just clueless and they didn't know what to do. They didn't know why the baby was crying. Like they have no, like they're fairies, so it's supposed to be like having like no knowledge of like human anything. And so basically Maleficent is there every step of the way as Aurora grows up, and she's there every step of the way, basically making sure she ate, making sure she was burped, making sure she was clothed, making sure she didn't fall off a cliff, because there was a part where she was going following a butterfly, and literally there was a whole drop off, and the fairies are back here, at the little picnic area that they set up, but they're not paying attention to her at all. And she's just going, 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 and you see like, okay, look, if they don't get her, she's about to fall right off this cliff, like clean off. And it ain't no like, little what you call that, you like a little hill that you roll down. No, it's clean, clear off. Like whoa. So you see how Maleficent is basically taking care of her and helping her as far as in raising her, because the fairies, they don't know what they're doing. But he's connecting that with the space of like the fairy godmother who was there in the Cinderella movie, who was basically helping Cinderella as she went. So helping her with the cleaning, helping her with the cooking. Of course she knew how to clean, of course she knew how to cook, but it was a space of the amount that they were giving her to do was just ridiculous. And it was just like, okay. And there was one time where she had this, I guess, this party she was having, and the table, when I say the table, had was overflowing with onions, garlic, carrots, potatoes, overflowing. And it was a nice sized table. It was she was basically like, clean up the kitchen, peel and clean these, and you need to make a dinner that's extravagant for my guests, they're coming. And this is the stepmother that's telling this to um Cinderella. And you guys know how the story goes. Of course, and when she's like, in the room, in the hallways, everything, she's like, make sure these stairs shine, make sure the banisters shine, make sure the walls shine, make sure the windows glisten. And she's literally just giving her um these tasks that normally would be for either everybody to help and participate in, or for a servant or a hired servant to do. But it's a more extreme in the space of like, hey, do all of it, do it all by yourself, and get it done by the time I get back. And you see that level of contempt, like just afterthought, and just like ill she treats her with. And you can see that throughout every single Cinderella as well as the Snow White. And so the part that Abba was bringing to my attention is basically, of course, once they go to the ball, she helps her with her dress. She goes to the ball, she has fun, she loses her slipper. Um, the guy's going around like, who owns the slipper? Then they get to showcase it and then have everybody try it on. Um, in this one they didn't necessarily find her yet. They were trying to like find her or whatever, and then he was ordered to marry someone else, and as he was about to marry someone else, she found the other slipper. And in finding that other slipper, she was spinning around in the field, and in spinning around in the field, he saw her spinning around in the field and saw the slipper in her hand. So he was like, it's you. So he left the girl wherever she was, the girl he was with, hopped on the horse, rode up to her, and basically was like, it's you, we get married. And in that, um, the part I was highlighting to me is when they came back, he's basically being a gentleman, like, hey, I want to make sure that I am reaching out to the proper people to ask for your hand, and ask for your hand properly. That would be the normally the man coming to the parents to ask permission to marry the daughter. Because even though even though you see daughters pursue men and of course propose to men, um, it kingdom wise, it is not generally so. Now, of course, if there's a peculiar story for you in the space of Abba leading you to, that's different because we're not going to box God in. He has a million ways to do one thing, and he has one way to do a million things. We're not going to box Abba in. But normally, it's going to be that he wants his daughters to be pursued after. He wants his daughters to continually be pursued after and dated. So there's that space of like, okay, usually the man will go and ask the parents. And so because the stepmother is her legal guardian, he goes to her to say, hey, um, I was coming to the legal guardian to ask for your blessing in marrying and making her my wife. And because he is the prince, there is nothing the stepmother can say in order to, how do you say, combat it. She's literally standing there like awestruck, and she's just baffled. And her daughters standing next to her, are blubbering and crying because they're not the ones to be the wife, but Cinderella was. In the space of, ew, you chose her, how? So there is that level of jealousy, covetousness, hatred, envy that is bubbling and boiling them up. And simply Cinderella, she just looks at them, she smiles, and she says, I forgive you. And then she looks at her prince so lovingly, like they're in their own little world, and they go off. That was the part that Abba was highlighting to me. And the part that he was highlighting to me was, you do not owe them anything. The people around you, the people that think they helped you so much, the people that think they did so much for you, even your parents that think that, oh, I sacrificed this and I sacrificed that and I did this, that, and though. When it comes down to the parents, because this is also balancing in the space of, yes, happy birthday, Snow White, but also the space of parent wounds. I think we're going to make this parent wounds part something. But either way, there is that space of parent wounds where the parents feel like, well, I had to give up what I wanted to do, and I had to make room for in the space of having to work, having to get a paycheck, and using that part of my paycheck to pay for you that I could have used for something else, or for or to do something else. And a lot of times the parents feel like, okay, because I work for it, because I pay for it, because I am, help me, Holy Spirit, because I am the one that has to basically get up every day, go to work to get the paycheck, to then get the paycheck and pay the bills, as we were talking about in parent wounds, there's this caretaker syndrome that goes on. And so they feel like because they are doing all of that, they're making the ultimate sacrifice. And um, they think that it's because that you have clothes on your back, you have food on your table, and you have shelter where you have a place to sleep. And with those three things, even if it may be that space of like, you still might be able to go school shopping, you still might be able to have a phone, etc., etc. It's like that's as far as it goes. It's just in the physical. And then in it being in the physical, they think, okay, I've sacrificed, I've done my job, and because of that, I deserve the title of the greatest mother and the greatest father in the world. And they leave it at that, where they completely neglect you spiritually, they completely shut you down emotionally, and they really, how do you say, traumatize you mentally. And those are the things that actually count, especially spiritually. Um, and so they think that because they did these physical things, that they, how do you say, they deserve that title of best parent ever because they did these physical things. Um, and with that being said, that is how the stepmother was in the movie. She felt like, well, I made sure you had a roof over your head, and I made sure that you ate, and I made sure you had a bed and a place to sleep. Mind you, it's still this space of treating her with this level of content, like she's an afterthought, contempt, like she's an afterthought. and then like kind of throwing chores and all of these things at her as if she's beneath being a human or being a servant, because it's the same thing when it comes down to um how do you say um uh thank you, Holy Spirit, the women. So like when the women and the men, they basically have that row where they're going through that separation and trying they're headed down that space to get a divorce. When they start divvying up the what you call it, as far as in divvying up the assets, most of the time it's the men that has the assets and the woman that are trying to get a piece of that. Like, hold on, that's that space of the prenup. So if you don't have a prenup, there's that what they call alimony. And so you have the women that are basically like, look, I cooked, I cleaned, I had your kids, I took care of your kids, all of those things. And they run down this laundry list of the things that they do and the things that they took care of, that normally if they didn't do it and the other person that was benefiting from it didn't do it, they would normally have someone else come in and do it, and they would pay for them to do it, whether that's taking your laundry to the cleaners, having someone clean your house, having a chef come in and cook for you, um, if they weren't doing it themselves. And so, in them not doing it themselves, as far as in the husbands go, it was left up to the wife to do. And it's like, hold on, the wife is doing laundry. She's the chef. She's the cleaner. She's taking care of the kids. So basically, she's doing the laundry. Those are chores. She's cleaning up everything. That's kind of like maid, servant, butler. That's also cooking everything. That's chef, cook, and also shopping for everything. So that's assistant, running errands and whatnot. Then she's taking care of the kids. Not only does she take care of the kids, she's having them. So that's like, okay, her what you call it, with her body, and then her basically being a nanny and daycare and teacher. And all of these aspects, as far as in all of these jobs, are jobs, literal jobs that are actually how do you say, paid for. And there's such a strong what you call it in culture and society that's pushing this, like, hey, we do all of these things that normally cost or more normally take this that and though of money, but you guys get it for free being married. And so they will use that as a means to say, hey, I actually do something, I'm a human being, I need to be seen to, and I do all of this and I take care of all of this. Now the parallel that Holy Spirit was bringing to me, like, hey, there's that space of where, as a wife, that's basically they don't want to be with them anymore, and they're getting, excuse me, they're getting a divorce, and they're going down that lane, which I don't agree with. Um, they're going down that lane for whatever reasons. It's the woman that's screaming about how much she did and how much she was, uh, what you call. But then on the flip side, as a parent, on the flip side, as a parent, the child or the children are treated as such in a way that, hey, you're telling them to do all of the cleaning, you're telling them to do all of the cooking, you're telling them to do all of this and that. And if it's not that, they are also, participating in those ways if they cannot participate financially, whether that be them being underage or that being them being the adult children that have had to come back to their home or their childhood home because of the circumstances as far as in life goes. Life has hit us hard, and it's hit us hard in such a way, especially with the wave with 2020, that there's a lot of things with jobs. There's a lot of things with the cost of things going up like crazy. And you're not able to keep up with everything, and bills and everything. So of course you have a lot of the adult children maybe moving back in with their parents and whatnot, and then also us, like us, the ones that are called and chosen and elite chosen. Abba has orchestrated it for you not to get a job because he didn't want you in that job to be distracted from the assignment that you have going on. Abba cares, and Abba is very intentional about what is going on in your life. He cares about your emotions, he cares about every detail of your life. However, your emotions and the carnal things of this world and life, hang on, sorry about that, had a phone call come through. But anyways, what I was saying was that you have Abba, he cares about your emotions, he cares about your feelings, he cares about the very meticulous things of, you know all the things that you care about, all the things that are on your brain, that you sometimes, honestly, sometimes you worry about them, opposed to and that's the thing about worrying about something. They say, like, when you worry, you're worshiping the problem instead of worshiping God. So that's where you kind of have to step in and tell your problems how big your God is. And just that caveat there. But what I'm trying to get at, and what I'm saying, thank you, Holy Spirit, is that um you all of the things, like your emotions and all of these things of the world, like jobs and bills and all of the things that are like natural or carnal, does not compare. Oh, thank you, Holy Spirit. Does not compare to the supernatural, to the spirit, to the ways and the statutes and orders and whatnot of God and of kingdom. And thank you, Holy Spirit. He's bringing to me Ecclesiastes 2 with Solomon, where he's talking about nothing in this world, nothing in the natural world compares to the supernatural, compares to the spirit, compares to kingdom and godly wisdom. There's nothing that compares to that. And so when it comes down to that, if he's telling you, hey, I don't want you in a job because I need you to focus on this work. And like I was saying with part of my testimony in bringing out parent wounds in the series there, I was sharing how, like, hey, if I was to have a job, been able to funnel the businesses and everything and the business ideas, if I were able to be in the investments and stuff that I was looking into and all of the stuff that I was learning about finances and everything, first off, I wouldn't have learned everything that I learned about finances if I did not have, or if I did not have a job. Does that make sense? Because I didn't have a job, I was able to deep dive in that space of finances, jobs, businesses, investments, and everything because I didn't have a job. But then also, because I didn't have a job, I was able to deep dive into the kingdom work that Abba was having me not only training for, preparing for, but also being pruned and cut and molded for. I would not have had the time to do that and do a job and take care of a new kid and just all of the things. It would have overwhelmed me, and Abba knew that. And it's different for each person. You are not a cookie cutter. People are not the same. No two one is the same. He knows you, he knew you, he formed you, he knows you. He knows every um he knows every hair on your head. Not only does he know every hair on your head, he knows all the parts of you at any given moment. How your weight changed. Like, okay, your weight fluctuates. You don't just stay one weight. If you step on the scale, oh, I'm about 170, 195. It doesn't stay that all day and then all week. You might be 195 in the morning, and then one maybe 190 in the morning, and then maybe tip into 192 by the end of the day, because you have water weight. Your weight fluctuates. You know how you grow certain things, like, okay, there's a beauty mark that grew here, or there's a beauty mark that grew there. No, that's my nose ring. um it's just as light over here. Anyways, with that being said, um Abba will flick those carnal things out of the way in order for kingdom work to be done. So a lot of us that are called, that are chosen, especially us elite chosen, that have been put in a consecrated space to be able to be trained and pruned and molded for the work of the kingdom. Like, he's like, I don't want you in a job. And part of also me learning, without having a job, has been me being able to heal, learn all the stuff that I've been learning, but also to understand and learn Abba as my supplier and my provider. So no matter what is going on in the world, he does not forsake his children. He will never leave you, never forsake you. He does not. I've never seen the righteous begging for bread, as it says, paraphrasing, but as it says, he will not leave you out there in the open. And there's that space where he will provide for you, he will supply for you, as it says also. I want to say it's like Luke 7, I believe, where it says, like, I provide for the birds, I provide for the animals and whatnot. I provide for them. So what makes you think I'm not going to provide for you? As fine as these daisies are dressed, what makes you think I'm not going to make sure that you are clothed? Like, Abba is the supplier and the provider. And that was one thing I had to learn without relying on a job, without relying on bills or income being paid. He still is providing for me. Whether it's the way that I like it or not, he still is providing for me. And that was one of the major things I had to learn, because when everything starts to get rocky, when everything starts to get shaky, when everything starts to move and shift, there's the level of fear and anxiety that comes in of how I'm going to pay this, how I'm going to keep up with that, how I'm going to make sure this is paid, this is and that, and all of the things like deadlines and whatnot coming up. Thank you, Holy Spirit. He's bringing to my attention just my own testimony, because I wasn't able to have that income coming in anymore. Being stripped of everything, basically getting me prepared for my training, but also being in a space of judgment, because me as a daughter, um, as far as a daughter of the King Most High, I was not where I should be. Okay, so basically there is that, just that space or that piece where I was in a space of judgment, in the space of um you know acknowledging Abba, but not knowing him as knowing him for myself. So there was a level of training and pruning that had to come with the stripping, but there was also the judgment, because I was very mean. I was very self-centered. I was very much so prideful. I was very much so walking in a space of like my emotions ruled everything. My emotions were everything, and if you offended me or in any kind of way, it was this space of like, I didn't do anything, I'm innocent, and you need to apologize, and you basically need to grovel. Like I was not like, I can't say that I was a uh not nice person, because I still, made friends with everybody. I was still kind, I was still giving and hospitable, but there were still those underlying tendencies of like the emotions taking over, the emotions driving the vehicle, that very passive aggressiveness, as well as this level of kind of plucking down my house with my mouth and my hands, in the way that I was not stewarding well over my husband, and not being a good steward in the space of allowing him to lead, because it was that space of not having a father and not having a father around. It was that father wound where my little girl showed up in the space of taking it out on him, in the space of whenever he tried to direct me, whenever he tried to correct me, whenever he tried to give criticism. It was this space of really feeling like I was bad, and feeling like there was something wrong with me, and feeling like, okay, I wasn't loved, and not wanted, also not heard. And even when I would try to explain, even though as I've grown, I begin to understand all of the explaining was literally just emotion and kind of like chaff to the wind. And he could see through that, and he would cut through that, but in the cutting through that, it would cut me to the core, and then it would be this space of my emotions, that little girl in me coming out, and that's that space of tearing down my house with my mouth and my hands. And that's part of the reason why you have like all of these words kind of tying in together, with the parent wounds, with the happy birthday Snow White, with the just the perspective, because it all ties together, as far as in what happened in your past with your parents, as far as in parent wounds, molding and shaping your EQ, that is being able to mold and shape your future, as far as in you walking into your marriages and your families, and you carrying all of that into it. And that was the whole point for me to go through that space and place, to be able to get all of that off of me. And that's the pruning and whatnot. And part of that, as he was bringing me through, because he wants me to give like a testimony, but he's saying we'll do that in another word. So with this one here in particular, because of that, and the stripping of everything for me to be able to see, because all of that had to be stripped from me so that I couldn't run. All of it had to be stripped from me so I couldn't hide. All of it had to be stripped from me so there was nothing that I could use to make any type of excuse for why I wasn't deep diving into the training and whatnot that was supposed to be for the kingdom work. Now, on top of that, if I did not come back, as far as in coming back to my mother's house, I would have left so many gems on the table. We talked about this as far as in parent wounds, but I would have left so many gems, so much healing, so much revelation on the table. And it was it was too much to leave. And that is why it was that space of stripping me of everything that I had in order to bring me back here to understand where it all began, where it all started, to get to the root of it so that I can understand whose I am and who I am, to be able to walk in that confidence, confidence, and how do you say uh confidence, confidence, authority, and dominion. Thank you, Holy Spirit. And so when all of that was stripped, a part of it was a space of the phone, because you have the phone, and it's like, okay, how is it going to get paid? The phone. And it's like, okay, how are you using the all Abba, all Abba, all Abba. It was to the point that I would sit here and literally worry about how this was going to get paid, how it was going to get, how the money was going to appear, trying to supplement, asking for maybe $20 here or $25 there that I did not want to ask for, trying to play this game that I could play to win certain points, or certain amount of points that I could win, like 5, 10, sometimes $20 off the bill. And so, I would try my best to do all of that, and doing all of that, and doing and doing and doing and striving so hard to make sure of that. And Abba was like, stop, I got this. And so every time the bill came around, it was this nerve wracking worry, until eventually it wasn't. Until eventually I completely forgot that the bill needed to be paid. And then the bill was being paid. And it's just like, so the entire time, it's like the bill is being taken care of, and I didn't have to strive. I didn't have to pump, prive, pull anything together, piece anything together. It's being paid for. And it's like, oh, now the way it's being paid for, don't necessarily care for. However, it is being paid for where it's like I don't have to think about it. I don't have to strive for it. I don't have to wonder where it's coming. Abba is my supplier and my provider, to the point that literally I don't even think about it. And that is the point that he wants to get you to when it comes down to what you have to pay for, your bills, etc., all of that stuff. He wants to get you to a point where you are you are relying on him in so much, in such a way, and trusting him in so much, in such a way, that it's literally just like, oh yeah, I forgot I gotta pay this. Okay, thank you, Holy Spirit, thank you, Abba. Like, it's just being brought to you, and he's letting you know, okay, this is for the phone, this is for this is for that. He's directing you. He is the master, he's the King of all kings, he's the Lord of all lords in everything. There is no wisdom on earth that can outpace the supernatural wisdom that Abba has. And every single space, there is so much more for you to learn. There is so much more for you to grow in. And with that being said, it's just that space of bringing that up to kind of tailor this all together, in the space of like just giving my testimony to show, like, hey, he did that to show that he's my supplier and he's my provider. And there's a level of orchestration in the space of you not having a job, and him calling you to not apply for anything, and then anything you're applying for, because I wasn't that I was being hard-headed, I just didn't understand what was happening at the time. And so I was applying for job after job after job after job after job. When I say it was, I was running through them. And then any type of job that I could find that was work from home, especially because I had my shorty, and it was like, nobody's about to pay for daycare for her. Nobody's about to, make sure that she gets there and back, as far as in the cars here. Because in parent wounds, I also spoke about how in Georgia, like, to get 2 minutes down the street in a car would take you about 45 minutes walking. And so it's a space of like, even though I would still be able to walk and go to certain spaces at certain times, most of the time it was like I needed a car to get somewhere. And if it was like putting her in a space, it was like I didn't have a vehicle to go ahead and get her if I needed to get her, pick her up if I needed to pick her up, all of the things. And Abba eventually like took care of that in the space of that anxiety, because that was a space of like fear and not trusting him in a way of like, okay, he's gonna make sure that she's taken care of too. Like, I'm his daughter, she's his daughter too. Like, she's gonna get taken care of, and that's just caveat there. But the point being is that the job was going to be a distraction from the kingdom work, and Abba will flick that carnal stuff, the job, in order for you to be able to be trained well in the space that you need to be trained in order to be able to take care of the kingdom work that needs to be done. Get me? Get me? So there's that space of like, people of society will look at it like, oh, you're a moocher, you're doing this, you're doing that, you don't work. Now for the kids that are underage, you're doing the parents are doing them a disservice by basically hanging them and taking all their little bit of money that they get, then to just throw them out into the world and saying, okay, go ahead and strive for yourself, not really teaching them anything, only providing for them physically, and then saying, oh well, I did my job, so I deserve parent of the year, parent of the world, because I did my job physically, but didn't teach them anything, meaning they don't know how to come out into the world and actually succeed, where it's not passing the baton, it's them starting from the start line. Oh, I had to go through it, so you got to go through it too. It's that space. That video is viral, and it's like it also like has all these different versions where you see the grandparent and they pass it down to the parent, and then the parent passes it down to the daughter, but then the daughter's like, I'm not passing it down to my daughter, and they put a crown on the daughter, or they have it to where you have the grandparent and it's like um this black water, and then you have the grandparent being poured into the parent, so it's all that black water being poured into the parent, and then that black water being poured into the daughter or to the son, and the son's like, I'm not passing that on. And then you have a clear excuse me, a picture of like clear water that represents Jesus, and that being poured in and poured in and poured in and poured in until it's crystal clear. And then we're taking that cup from the son or daughter and pouring that into the now grandchild, or the son's son or daughter's son or daughter. You get me? So it's just passing that on as far as in the next generation, and it's that space of pouring in those good kingdom habits and principles, um as well as those, thank you, Holy Spirit, generational blessings. So there's going to be a level of like society and culture that's telling you basically you're a moocher. You're lazy, you don't like to do anything, you won't get a job, you won't get out of the house, you won't do anything. And that's not it. They have no idea what you're doing behind the closed door that you're in. They have no idea the level of warfare that you are fighting day in and day out, breaking the generational curses that they are also in. They have no idea the level of um amount of energy and taxation that takes you. They have no idea the level of um all of the work that you are putting in that actually counts because it's kingdom. They have no idea what you are even bringing in. And so it's a level of, you may look lazy, you may look like a moocher, you may look like you're just you don't want to do anything. You're just, you may look like that, but that's not the case. And it's okay to be misunderstood, and allowing them to think what they want to think. And the point of all of that, as far as in bringing up that Cinderella and bringing up that part where she was basically looking at her like, you know, um, thank you, Holy Spirit. He's bringing to my attention the way that she was looking, like basically like, okay, there's some sort of what you call it. When she said I forgive you and then walked away, she was just like, how dare she say she forgive me? Basically like, bro, I ain't do nothing. And then there's this look that they have on their face like, okay, like, aren't you gonna take us with you? In some of the versions you see where the like the one with Brandy, you see the stepmother and the two sisters that are going, they're waving through the fence, the gate, and they're like, hey, take us with you, take us with you. And it's like, they feel entitled to go with you because of the sacrifice they think they made, and that feeling entitled to go with you despite how they treated you. And you see how it's that parallel where it's the wife that will sit here and say, I did all of this and this, but then when the kids say, hey, I'm doing this and this, or you hurt me in such a way, it's kind of just this dismissal that they're not even human. Oh, you're my child, you got to do what I say, how I say it, when I say it. And basically this is just that subtleness, and how we explained it in Parent Wounds, how it's almost sitting up on this high horse, like, I'm rich, I pay all the bills, I make all the money, and so basically you you know you're the servant, you're the what you call it, and you're basically beneath me. And there, it's not necessarily, like I said, them saying it out loud or saying it blatantly. It's going to be that subliminal way that it comes in, that subliminal way that it creeps in that way. And so when you have that going on, just wrapping that all together, you can see there's a level of uh the way that Abba brought it to me and dropped it in my spirit was you don't owe them anything. Abba already has it built in for one, that for one, it's built in where they take care of you because that's their responsibility in children being a blessing. They're not a burden. That is your responsibility to make sure that they are taken care of. It's also your responsibility to train them up in the way that they should go. Because when it's built in, the way that it works, when they get old, the children have to do what? Take care of them because they're now turning into babies. You get me? It's already built in there. So this level of I owe you, or you owe them, or you owe them your life, you owe them everything everything you make. That is a trick of the enemy to put you in this space of guilt, of shame, of condemnation, to make you think that you have to do all of these things in order to pay them back for what they think they've done, or what they're so loud about what they sacrificed, even though it was their choice to do the do, even though it was their choice to do the do. It makes it's their responsibility. You cannot put that on the child as if, oh, you're a burden, you're taken from me, I have to do all these things for you, as if they asked to be here because they didn't. Now, then, once you move that in, as far as in that already being built in, it's a space of everything belongs to God. And we spoke about this in the Parent One series. Everything belongs to God. So it was basically like when I was looking at this, it just clicked, and it was just like it was basically this the stepmother and the sisters basically looking like, take us with you. And it's like after you see how she was treated, though she still had a bed to sleep, though she still had food to eat, though she still had clothes, though she still had roof over her head, she was still treated like she was an afterthought. There was no intimacy, there was no connection, there was no uh actually knowing her and spending time with her. No, it was just like, clean this up, take that, go do this, make that. What are you doing? Okay, you're grounded. Don't do that. Like all of the things. And we can be or feel in this space of being oppressed like that as the adult children that have to go back, or even as the child being in the parent's home, because you're dealing with the darkness that is in them. And we spoke about that too. So there's this space of it all belonging to God. And it's like, just looking at her, it's almost like you could see it, like she was almost like, okay, you owe me. But then it was just like, hold on, you moved into the house she grew up in. That is her father's house. And when I got that thought, it clicked. I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's her father's house. Heavenly Father, it all belongs to God. That's He's making sure you are taken care of, supplying and providing, whether you like the way that he's doing it, the method that he's doing it or not. He is making sure you are taken care of. And in him making sure you are taken care of, that is your father's house. That is your father's things. That is your father making a way for you, whether you like the method or not. That is her father's house that she's like basically like, okay, you're supposed to pay it back. Like, you don't owe them nothing. You don't got to pay nothing back. No, that is a tactic of the enemy to make you feel like you don't deserve what you're walking into and that you'll always owe. And it's like, okay, flip it a different way, because Abba was bringing it to me this way as well. Let them pay their parents for everything that their parents paid for. Let them pay for that. You cannot keep score like that. You cannot, especially as when the parents get older, the child takes care of the parent. You get, it's already built in there. But Abba was bringing me that to share because it was just like, oh wow, oh snap. When you step into all that Abba is called you to step into, because yes, there is the backside and the underbelly, there's the valley lows, but there are the mountaintops where you are going to shine, baby, shine like the God that is in you. And when you shine, step into that thing like it's your birthday. That's why it's also a part of like the Happy Birthday Snow White series. Step into that thing like it's your birthday. When you have your birthday, that's your cake, that's your ice cream, that's your flowers, that's your balloons, those are your gifts. You get me? Those are specifically tailor made for you, just as Abba made it. So was that it, Holy Spirit? Mm-mm, mm-mm. yeah, I think that was it. So that's all we have for this video. Happy birthday, Snow White. And go ahead and do your thing, like, comment, subscribe, and remember, God is love, Jesus the way, the truth, and the life. And I will be back on the next video. Mm-mm-mm.